Mummy was outside washing her clothes one Saturday morning while I kept pondering on what to do, considering what Uncle Felix had been doing to me. Mum sighted me and abruptly remained silent. She removed her hands from the clothes she was washing. "Come," Mum said, motioning her left hand, and I went to meet her. I kept biting my left thumb, but Mum shunned me and removed my hands from my mouth. "Why are you walking like someone that they've drained every single drop of blood? Jenny, what's going on? Or you want to tell me that you've not eaten anything since morning? What happened to the food I cooked?" "Mummy, I've eaten. Mummy, I'm scared," I stammered, cracking my fingers. "Jenny, scared of what? What is it? Talk to me. I'm your mother." Mum quizzed as she sat me on her lap, buttoning my chest that was a bit opened while I turned my face to the other side. "Jenny, come here fast," Uncle Felix called from the kitchen. "Jenny, your uncle is calling you. Go and meet him," Mum said, and I stood up and left. Going to meet him felt like going to meet the devil himself. In my mind, I was crying bitterly, but I had to oblige. "Jenny, so it's me that will wash this your plate for you." "Please, I forgot. I'll wash them. It was actually Mum that called me," I pleaded, kneeling. "Is it not how you kept your face that made Mum suspect that something was wrong? So if not that I called you, that is how you would have exposed everything, right?" He bellowed and pressed me against the wall. "I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, please. Please believe me. I only told her that I'm scared." You better mind your tongue. I believe we had an agreement, so better respect yourself." He whispered to me, released me, and left. My heart began to race, and I began panting like someone that ran a marathon. I dashed to my room, locked the door, and pulled my skirt. I began removing the small piece of cloth I had placed in the middle of the two pants I was dutifully wearing because of the excruciating pains I was feeling. I discovered that the piece was soaked with blood as usual. I carefully removed it and rushed to the bathroom to flush the small piece. After successfully rinsing myself, I changed back to a different pant and left. Uncle Felix had been staying with us for 2 months, and he should be in his 30s. Mum had always trusted him, oblivious to the fact that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. My elder brother and sister, Idara and Success, were still in university, and I was just 16 years old. My junior sister, who was 9, attends a boarding school. Felix had been making moves on me for over 2 weeks and successfully took advantage of me one Sunday night. I was bleeding constantly, but I kept it hidden from everyone exactly as Felix had threatened. Daddy was constantly busy with work, so he didn't have time to focus on family matters, and on top of that, he was the one battling to sponsor us to school with his salary, while Mum provided for our eating and some home items like clothes, shoes, etc. Mum was a part-time teacher in a private school, so she spends a lot of time at home, and she also owns a hair salon. She had a manager working in the shop, implying that her attention is not generally required before making transactions, and for the past few years, I hadn't paid a dime to make my hair. We returned from church as usual one day. Mum and Dad left, saying they needed to check on one of their friends with whom they had a vital discussion. Immediately, they crossed the gate. Felix carried me to his room, pulled his trousers, and began touching me inappropriately. During that time, the bleeding I was experiencing had stopped. "Uncle, please, I'm not feeling fine, please," I cried out, because I was aware of the sufferings and excruciating pains I had endured the previous time. It was still ringing in my head like a warning bell. "Relax, it's okay. I'll take you to Market Square and buy you ice cream. Don't worry, there's nothing to worry about. I believe you're no longer bleeding." He repeated this as he lifted my top to yank it off. I attempted pleading with him, but it all fell on deaf ears. He forcefully went ahead to violate me, and the bleeding worsened. You know the agony of itching a healed wound? That was exactly what I went through. I felt afraid at one point, and due to his constant threats, there was nothing I could do other than to just lay on my bed crying and groaning in pain. I rushed to my dad's room the next day when he was about going to work. I told him that I was having a fever. He was quizzed. "Jesus, Jenny, why is it now that I'm about going to work? You couldn't inform either me or your mother yesterday. It's okay, it's never too late. So how does your body normally reacting? Daddy, it's my... I began stuttering immediately. I cited Felix as he rushed over. Jenny, what is it? What are you doing here by this time? Are you not supposed to be sleeping? He muttered, pointing at me as he entered inside. Felix, it's okay. She's my daughter. Let her talk. She has every right to come to meet me whenever she needs help. She was telling me about something. Jenny, go on. I'm listening. Dad confronted him and sat down to give me a listening ear. Daddy, can I talk to you alone because you're always busy with work? I said, covering my face with both hands to avoid Felix's threatening looks. Jenny, you're wasting my time. I have a meeting to catch up with. Felix is your uncle. Say whatever you want to say. I'm listening. Please don't waste my time. I stood there speechless. I was feeling uneasy after noticing that the new pant I wore when I woke up had got drenched with blood. Dad swiftly got to his feet and handed me a 1,000 naira note to give to Mum so she could assist me in getting some medications for myself. He carried his suitcase, shut the door, and walked away, and Uncle followed him. He advised me to hold off on telling him anything until he returned from work. Throughout that day, I couldn't summon the courage to walk up to him again because of Felix. During that week, Mum's manager misplaced some of her business money, so she wasn't really herself. I would sob in my room for days during the bleeding. The pains were so terrible that I was unable to go out and hang out with some of my classmates with whom I completed secondary school. He was the one who normally checks up on Runo, my junior sister, and I had been praying all through, hoping that God would help me to expose him someday. Felix kept assuring me that he'd buy me this and that, although he had bought me ice cream numerous times, even cakes. As of then, I don't have a phone. He bought me some of my skirts, even the pink bra I was using. He orchestrated it and bought it for me. He tried every means to brighten up my face, but the wounds he had inflicted on me remained. The 5th time he violated me was one particular afternoon, around 2 p.m., that I was bathing. Meanwhile, my elder sister went back to her school in the morning after Mum had successfully given her some foodstuffs like rice, gari, beans, and some of the yams she had bought from the market. I was the one who helped Success, my elder sister, to carry the 2 sacks to the roadside. After everything was done, I returned to the house to serve some of the rice that Success had prepared, finished eating, relaxed on the couch for a while, and went to the bathroom to take a bath because I was sweaty. I never knew that the devil had been monitoring me the entire time. While I was bathing, Felix quickly bumped in, stark naked. I screamed in fright, but he quickly covered my lips and slammed the door. Mummy heard my screams and hurried over to the bathroom, opening the door and standing a few feet away. She was curious, and Felix had crept behind the closed door by my left. He had already threatened me as usual to compose myself. Jenny, what is it? Why were you shouting? Could you believe I abandoned all the beans I was selecting just because of you? Mummy, I slipped and almost fell. I'm sorry, it was because of... I stuttered, using style to peer at him. Jenny, the eyes that God gave you so you don't see with them? So it was an ordinary slip that caused you to scream? Better finish this, your bath, and come and join me to select the beans. She stated, banged the door, and left. Please, bend fast, he whispered as he stood right in front of me. Uncle, please, you're killing me, please. I don't want to go through those horrible pains again. Please, I'm begging you. You can tell me to do another thing, but not this. Please, I pleaded amidst hot tears while on my knees. But he stood there, and his face abruptly changed to that of a charging bull. Don't make me force you. Just let me do my thing and go. That's all. Do I make myself clear? After all, you're already getting used to it, and very soon you won't be feeling much pain. He stated and proceeded, slamming me against the wall without letting me utter anything else. When he finished, he spilled out everything on the floor, flushed everything with the shower, and left. I was casting generational curses upon him in my head. I struggled to clean up all the blood and reached for my bed while sobbing bitterly and covering my face with the pillow. I couldn't join Mum to select the beans that day, and she didn't bother to ask me either. She prepared the beans all by herself. I was in my room crying and praying in my mind. Felix later bought me a prescription in liquid form that night, and he instructed me to take 2 caps of it, adding that it would make me feel better. After sipping it, he covered it and sneaked back to his room. It had been over 6 months since I had been going through all the pains and sorrows. On occasion, he would not violate me, but he'd just touch my chest, kissing and touching me all around. One of the things Felix does for a living is that he sells items online: shoes, watches, bags, outfits, and so forth, and delivers some to his customers' homes after placing their order, and he works with some groups of persons. There was even a particular day that Felix and I went to service on Thursday, 4:23 p.m., although it was aired live except from when Henry was ministering. While the ministering was on, Felix was summoned by Pastor Henry to meet him at the altar. I was startled to believe he had observed something connected to what he had been doing to me, and that period the pains had subsided. "You're Felix, Jenny's uncle, right?" Pastor questioned him. "Yes, Pastor," he responded. I was just there observing them. Pastor looked at him for a while. "Pastor, is everything all right?" Felix asked him eagerly, putting on a fake smile. Of course, I could tell when he's smiling and when he's acting. "We have something to talk about. You can go. I just wanted to recognize you in the midst of the crowd. You've been coming here for a while now, but I don't really recognize you," he told Felix and continued with his preachings. Felix left and sat close to me. Pastor discussed with him when service had elapsed, but I had no idea of what they talked about. We got home, and Felix became so mad at me, of which I had no idea. "Jenny, what did you tell that useless man that called me outside today?" He fired at me, and my heart quickly flown out. "I didn't tell him anything. Please believe me," I appealed. Why was he now telling me that there's something peculiar about me, that I need to change my ways? "What did you tell him?" He thundered again, and Mum heard his voice. "Felix, what's going on with you and my daughter this evening? I thought both of you just came back from church," Mum quizzed, peering at him. "Don't mind this girl that doesn't used to hear word," he exclaimed, stared at me, and left. Only the eye alone I had already known the message he had passed to me. "And you? Can't you just respect yourself for once? What's your problem? So because I didn't follow you to the church today, that's why you're misbehaving," Mum protested. I remained silent as I sat on the floor with my hands tucked between my legs and portraying a guilty face. A call quickly came in, and Mum left to attend to the call. After a few days, Felix accompanied me to register for my WAEC as instructed by my parents. My mother had already decided that it was time for me to enroll at university with my siblings. The moment we were going to enter the woman's office around 2:18 p.m., my chest suddenly became hot. I unexpectedly slumped and passed out. I woke up and saw Felix sitting close to me in one particular clinic that I had no idea of, and I noticed that it was late. I raised myself up from the bed, looking around. "Please, sir, where am I? What happened to me?" He was just rotating his head sideways. "You were unconscious, so I brought you here for a checkup. Jenny, just relax." "Sir?" I answered and unexpectedly vomited on the mattress. It's okay. The nurse pronounced that you're pregnant, and I don't want you to say anything yet. I will take care of everything." "Oh, Jesus, I'm pregnant," I cried out, and he quickly covered my mouth. "Shh, I told you I'll handle it. Don't unveil anything to anyone yet. Do I make myself clear?" While waiting for a response from me, a call came, and it was Mum. "Hello, Mummy. Yes, she's fine. I'm with her, and she's getting better. Mummy, we thank God that it didn't surpass this," Felix replied. "I heard she fell unconscious as she was about to enter the office. Which hospital did you take her to? Can I speak with her?" "Tell her you're fine," Felix whispered and gave me the phone. "Mummy," I said, staring at him. "My daughter." What happened to you? I apologize for not being able to contact you. I have a lot on my plate, and you know your father doesn't even have time for himself, let alone someone else, which is why I let your uncle accompany you there. I never expected any of this. What exactly happened to you? Please explain. I have enough airtime. Mummy, I'm still in the hospital here with my uncle, and I'm fine. I'm fine now. God is really wonderful. I'm glad you're fine, because I've been worried. Please give him the phone. I gave him the phone. Please make sure she's well taken care of. When will she be discharged? Probably tomorrow. Felix, please make sure my daughter is safe, she said and ended the call. Mummy, rest assured. Okay, we will talk later, Mum remarked and cut the call. I successfully got discharged the following day, and Mum was so amazed and insisted that I should take enough rest. The day that I managed to complete my WAEC registration, something unexpected happened. He administered 2 specific drugs to me and asked me to take them every night before bed. I complied. He also assured me to remain silent and that he'd do everything he could to cover up the situation. I kept taking the medications as directed. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Everyone was having breakfast in the dining room around 5 p.m. when my chest suddenly became hot like the previous time. I vomited and accidentally broke the plate of rice my mother had prepared for me. I hadn't eaten more than 10 spoonfuls. Felix was just staring at me confusingly. Mum and Dad were inquisitive, but I just cried and sped off to my room without looking back. Mum was the one who ran after me. Jenny, are you not the one I'm calling?" She called again for the 3rd time. I halted as I was about to enter my room. Mummy, I'm not feeling fine," I said amidst tears. "Jenny, you're behaving strangely. Is there something you're not telling me? Last time you slumped and now you're vomiting? Come here," Mum instructed, looking so worried while motioning her left hand. "Jenny, what is it?" Felix said and rushed over. "Jenny, you're not feeling fine? Why didn't you inform me? Mummy, let me take her to the hospital. I think her situation is getting out of hand." Felix muttered, walking close to me. "Felix, just excuse me. I need to talk to my daughter, alone," Mum stated, took me inside my room and shut the door. My stomach began to hurt me, as if something was excavating a large hole inside of me. I began to shout and wail on the ground. My condition worsened to the point where Mum abandoned everything and rushed me to the nearby hospital alongside Dad and Felix. After all of the tests, Mum and Dad were informed that I was 3 weeks pregnant and that my odds of carrying the child to term were only 10% out of 100%, and that I was starting to lose the child due to some harmful pills that I had been taking. The nurse later advised Mum to make sure I stopped taking the pills to avoid further complications. Mum was just crying bitterly while Dad was peering at me annoyingly. I stayed there for approximately 6 days with all manner of medications before Mum brought me back home. She didn't ask me anything about the situation until I got home. Each time Mum would question me about the situation, I'd face the ground, shedding hot tears. Mum and Dad instructed Felix to search my room and look for the drugs that I had been taking. But unfortunately, Felix hid everything by himself and told them that he found nothing because I could vividly recall that I hid the drugs under my wardrobe. Despite the pressure, I refused to speak because I was afraid. Mum and Felix were putting a lot of pressure on me. Mum eventually felt sorry for me, seeing all the scars she had inflicted on my body and considering my condition. She stopped striking me and started caressing me, asking me to reveal the person responsible. Uncle Felix continued with the threats. He'd sneak into my room at night, most especially around 11 p.m., with the pills and pressure me to take them, saying, "It's better you lose this child. Do you know what it means if your mum finds out? Do you want to die?" "No, Uncle, please. I don't want anything to happen to me." I heard everything that the nurse told Mum. "Please, I don't want to harm this innocent child. I won't tell anyone that you're responsible." "Good, which is why you have to keep on taking the drugs every night. Understood?" Some days after taking the pills, he'd position me and take advantage of me regardless of the situation and would sneak back to his room. I hadn't noticed a shred of happiness on my mother's face since she learned about my condition. Felix would frequently be the one to beg her while she sat outside crying. Dad, on the other hand, would occasionally choose to stay at home out of frustration. There was a time when Dad became so irritated and started hounding Mom, accusing her of being to blame for everything. There was nothing I could do other than to cry and watch, and if it weren't for Felix, who usually separated them, Dad would have beaten Mom till she was unconscious. After Mom and Dad had reconciled, the pastor came to our house one particular evening to pray with us. It was kind of spontaneous because we weren't expecting him. The pastor immediately remained silent while we were praying, then spoke to Felix. "Felix, there's a terrible addiction you have, and the Holy Spirit has told me to tell you to stop," he said. Pastor, I think you must be mistaking me for someone else, though." "Addiction," he exclaimed shockingly. "Felix, just keep quiet and listen to what he's telling you. Just listen." Dad squeaked at him. I could tell that he wasn't happy at all, considering all the frustrations he had been going through, all because of me. "Felix, sorry to ask, but have you given your life to Christ before?" "Yes," he responded with a weak voice. "What about you, Jenny?" I began to splutter, staring at my mother, whose eyes were filled with tears. "Please help me ask her. I've done everything to persuade her to unveil the person responsible for this situation, but she won't say anything. Pastor, I'm just frustrated because I haven't been myself for more than a month. This girl should not kill me before my time." Mom shouted amidst tears. "Jenny." "Yes, Pastor." I replied and turned to him. Felix had already stood up, peering at me. "Tell me the truth. You know I'm a pastor, and you can't lie to me. Who is responsible for this?" I was simply perplexed and speechless, sobbing silent tears and pondering what to say. "Felix." "Yes?" he answered. "Don't you have any idea about her situation? Because it's only the three of you in this house, or are there any other strangers who come to visit?" The pastor confronted him. "How am I expected to know? Furthermore, any random person can enter. She has friends with whom she socializes. It might be possible that one of them could be responsible. Who knows?" Felix objected, pretending like someone who doesn't know what was going on. The pastor dropped his Bible, heaved a sigh of relief, and folded his hands. This girl, don't worry. By the time I torture you, you will speak up. You want to disgrace me in this house, right? Don't worry." Mom shouted amidst tears, swinging her hands and cracking her fingers. Hey, it's okay. If you had been watching her closely, none of this would have happened. What's the duty of a wife? What's the main reason why I married you in the first place? Is it not to take care of our children? Regina, don't let me hear your voice again." Dad warned Mom, extending his left hand. "Please, it's okay. Please, let's settle this cordially. We will soon get to the bottom of this. There's nothing that the Lord cannot do," the pastor told Mom and Dad. "Jenny." "Pastor," I answered, scratching my left hand and looking so devastated. "Who is the person behind this situation? Your parents are really frustrated because of the problems you've inflicted on them. Your mom is so upset with you," he stated, gazing at me. Pastor, I don't know what to say. I'm scared. Pastor, I don't know what to... I cried out and rushed to my room, covering my face with both hands. "Jenny," the pastor called, but I left regardless. "Don't worry, I'll go after her and talk to her," Felix said and rushed to meet me in my room. He shut the door, drew the curtains, and sat close to me on the bed. "Wipe those tears. What's there to cry about? Once they ask you, just tell them you don't know, that's all. Nobody will come and use a razor blade to cut your mouth, which is why I'm trying everything possible to make sure that you resolve this situation. Are you hearing me?" He whispered to me, cleaning my tears. I nodded and stood up. "Just stick to the plan," he said, and left. While the pastor was talking to Dad, Mom came to soothe me in my room that day, begging me to tell her the truth. But I remained silent and crying. She became enraged and yelled at me, even spanking me on the head 3 times. But all I did was scream and roll on the ground. The pastor pleaded with them to allow me and give me some time. He stated that being harsh on me is not the best approach to address the matter. Mom would ensure that Felix takes me to the clinic for checkups. But Felix wouldn't. He'd take me out to anywhere of his choice. Most of the time, he'd purchase me costly foods. Mummy chose to keep a tight eye on me at night because she was afraid something horrible would happen to me. During those times, Felix was unable to take advantage of me nor administer the drugs as usual. After a few weeks, that should be around the 4th month, Felix crept to my room as usual. That was around 12:15 a.m. He was in shorts and was holding 2 small cups of drugs and a small sachet of water. That day, I was so fatigued that Mum didn't come to my room as usual, so I slept off. Felix was the one who tapped me, and I jolted up in fright. When I looked closer, it was him. At first, I thought it was a dream. Since I could recall turning the lights on before going to sleep, he had already turned them off. "Felix, please don't tell me you want to give me those drugs again," I muttered, saddening my face. "Have you forgotten what I told you?" he said, and quickly removed his shorts. "Felix, please, not with this situation I'm in. Please, I'm begging you." I kept pleading with him as he positioned me. "Quiet. Do you want Mum to know that I'm here? Stop complaining. This is something you're already used to." "Why are you doing this to me? Is it because I'm a young girl? Can you do this to your sister?" I said calmly while crying bitterly. "Shut up, you talk too much," he said, and began to take advantage of me. After 30 minutes, he handed me the 6 tablets with the water and sat close to me on the bed. I was on the verge of swallowing the drugs when someone abruptly opened the door. Felix rushed to get his shorts while I tossed the drugs on the floor out of fear. The person quickly turned on the lights, and it was my dad. "What?" Dad thundered and rushed over to knock him on the face, and he landed on the floor. Felix struggled to get up and sped off stark naked. I was on the ground, groaning in pain. Daddy looked at me with teary eyes. "You've been keeping such a thing away from me? Jenny, why?" "My daughter, why?" he shouted. "Daddy, he threatened me. Daddy, I don't want anything to happen to me," I muttered amidst tears. "He threatened you? In my own house? And you kept quiet like a fool, allowing that person to harm you." Dad fired at me. "Daddy, I'm sorry. What is going on here? Honey, why this cry?" Mum intervened, looking so worried. "Your brother had been the one harming our daughter all this while. Turns out we had been turning a blind eye. I will skin him alive." Dad shouted, pulled his top, and sped off. Mum was stunned, standing dumb and staring at me with teary eyes as I lay on the ground crying and attempting to get up. She lifted me from the ground, drew my gown, and sympathetically instructed me to take a bath. I came back from the bathroom and couldn't find my parents, likewise Felix. Throughout that night, I found no trace of them, and I vomited twice before sleeping. The next day, around 9 a.m., as I went to throw away the dirty water I had used to wash our plates, a black Hilux arrived, followed by a small Camry, and Felix had been tied with some ropes and bundled in the back of the Hilux. He was looking shabby and in tattered trousers. His face was bloated, and his left leg looked like it had been injured. They came to a halt, and my parents and numerous unknown security officers and 2 women emerged from both vehicles. The scene alone caught my attention to the point that I hastily tossed the big bowl to my left. Mum was standing and resting on the Hilux, staring at me and crying while one of the women consoled her. My father had a long gun in his left hand. He stormed inside the house like a raging bull without telling me anything. I looked at Felix and felt sorry for him. I raced over to meet Mum, knelt in front of her, and began crying and pleading. "Mummy, please let him go. He's dying. Please, I forgive him for everything he had done to me. He's dying, please. Just look at you. You're even pleading on his behalf. What a shame. Some girls you're far older than are so wise that they alert their parents when something goes wrong with them. But you're just quiet like a tortoise. What an idiot you are. Oh, Jesus, get out of my front. Just go. Get out. Just go. Mummy bellowed at me, jumping up in rage and scratching her hair. But Mummy... I said go, she shouted. It's okay, please just go. Your mother is not really herself right now, just go. As you can see, we are handling the situation, and he had already confessed. We'd make sure that justice is served. Go to your room and take good care of yourself. You don't need any disturbance right now. Young females of your age experience similar things, and with the way they occur, the victim would always find it difficult to speak up. I can relate because I was once in your shoes, but let's keep that aside. One of the women said and walked me inside, and I went to the kitchen. Dad came out after spending some minutes inside his room, banged the door, and they all drove off. That was the last time I saw Uncle Felix in the compound. When my parents came back during the evening, they told me that he had been jailed. My elder siblings had to rush over from school because of what happened. They were informed by my mum, although they left after a few weeks of stay, and I believe they must have gone to check up on Felix in jail. After a few months, the same woman who had recommended me came to check on me. She and my mother began educating me about personal safety and urged me not to allow anyone to harm me and that I should say no to any form of abuse. Some of my friends who had heard the news came to console me. I successfully got through the situation, but they had to operate on me to resolve the complications. My parents advised me to name my child Great, that he'd undoubtedly become a great man someday. I was unable to meet up with my WAEC, so I enrolled the next year and continued my life with my child and parents until I entered university. Learn to speak up when you're being harmed. Parents, understand your children, most especially the girls, when they're in pain because not all of them would have the courage to speak up. There are many more lessons for everyone to learn from this story, so if I ask what you've learned, what would be your response? Join me next time for more captivating story like this. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Before you go, help me grow this community. Hit that like button for more thrilling content, subscribe for new uploads, comment below with your theories and reactions,